Hello, I am so glad you are here. I know that you are going to fall in love with this section because the exercises and movements that you're about to learn are going to simplify your birth so much. Well, one of the things that I've been told by many of my clients is, Susie, I wish when you had talked about baby positioning and movement, I would have listened, because the truth of the matter is that not many people are going to be able to tell you about your pelvic health and your baby and how they're working together, and why it's so important that you take some time to restore the natural balance and flexibility to your pelvic area. Because in my experience, taking care of this can save you from an extraordinarily long labor. One thing that a lot of people don't realize is that as you're going through labor, you and your baby both have really important jobs to help your baby come down and out of your pelvis. You see, fitting a baby through your pelvis is a lot like fitting a key through a lock, where if everything lines up just right, it's easy peasy. But if it doesn't, things can take a lot longer and you may need a little bit more help. All right, so let's start by talking about your pelvis and why it's important to you that you fix this. Spend some time loving your pelvic area, at least. During birth, your pelvis can move more than 30%. These bones move this way and that way. This bone in your back moves back. Even this little thing at the bottom of your tailbone moves. There is so much flexibility here. However, if you take in mind that this bony structure is held in place by muscles, ligaments, fascia, and we all have lifetimes of small decisions that have affected this area. A lot of us do that thing where we sit or stand sideways with our hip out and our hand on our hip, and boop, we're constantly pulling our hips out of alignment doing that. And over time, instead of just snapping back, the muscles grow to support the bony structure to stay tilted. Same thing happens when we sit in chairs and we're tilted, that if you watch people walking around and you pay close attention, you'll notice a lot of us walk with our pelvises tilted this direction. And all of that affects the shape of your pelvis, which is why somebody who has a perfect pelvis, structurally speaking, may still have a difficult birth or be told their pelvis is too small, or one way, for one reason or the other, is not supporting their birth. And here's why how that plays into the birth of your baby. So you have this pelvis that your baby is designed to fit into. As your baby is being born, this little person, and your baby will be so much cuter, I promise, has a really big job to do. There is so much trust going on between you and your baby in this process of birth. As your baby is being born and they're coming into your pelvis, they can only get into your pelvis in 3 directions: from one of the sides or backwards. So your baby's job during labor is that they need to come down into your pelvis and then ideally turn. Notice what's happening to that hand staying above the head there, and then they come down and through your pelvis. Ta-da! Pop, your baby's born. However, when we have squamous pelvises, your pelvis can demand that your baby take the long arc instead of the short arc. And that can be a problem because even though your baby can be born as a stargazer, there are so many factors that can make this stargazing baby a longer birth. So even just taking a look at this, if your baby turns around this way, they don't fit as well. See that hand? I'm going to adjust it. Excuse me. A lot of babies that turn this way do get their hands stuck by their heads, by the way, which is difficult. So your baby comes down like this, and you know, a lot of people think that in labor, you have contractions, your contractions opens your cervix, you dilate, the door opens, and pop, baby comes down. But it doesn't work like that. Your contractions put pressure on baby. Your baby puts pressure on your cervix as if your baby is pushing the door open. So when your baby flips and they're facing some either straight back or sideways to one of the sides, backward sideways, think they can rotate 360 degrees so they're facing one of these more backwards positions. Their head is not making contact with your full cervix, which means that you can get to 8 to 9 centimeters dilated, and then you can be stuck there for hours while you try different positions and different movements to try to get baby to put pressure on that area of the cervix that needs the pressure to move and to dilate and get out of the way. That's difficult. Also, your spine against baby's spine will give you back labor, which is not fun. And just the effort of getting out of this position, taking that long arc, can be very, very difficult. If you see this baby got her hand stuck up by her head, and now this is the only way she can come out. And you can see, even for me with my little models, it's a lot more difficult. In my experience, if you can encourage baby to take the short arc, your birth goes so quickly. You're much less likely to need episiotomies, forceps, vacuums, C-sections, and you're much more likely to have a normal length labor instead of a long, extensive, drawn out labor. And you're also likely to have less pain during your labor because a lot of your work can be done during the early labor where you're not in much pain at all. All right, so please, if you can, jump into the next exercises, add them into your daily routine. It only takes about 15 to 20 minutes a day to really, really, really make a big difference in your pelvic health. And if you have any questions, ask me right away. All right, we'll see you in the next video, and I can't wait to see how good you feel as you restore some balance and flexibility here. Thank you for being here.